far as injuries are concerned, Tutu will be back, as will Akello. We'll start both of those guys' clocks. Good news on Akello, different from kind of what I told you guys about. Xavier will be back from the concussion at full. Cam Kitchens, David Questenberry, and Byron Young will be DMPs. Cam with his shoulder, David Questenberry with his groin, and Byron Young with a knee. I do. I think he'll be able to play this week. So he got some scans. The goal and the anticipation is to be able to do that. But with both he and Tutu, we'll get through the week and we'll see where they're both at. But it'll be good to get them back on the practice squad or on the practice field.
What will that mean to get Akello back, especially with that constant second?
It means a lot, and that's why talking with Reggie, seeing where he's at, he's been chomping at the bit. The scan looked really good, and so he's done some different things with Reggie and his group that would try to simulate, some of the physical contact and being able to trust it. And obviously the practice settings will be really good, but it means a lot, because putting Roger McCreary on IR, he got his groin. It's such a bummer, because, you lose Q, you go get Roger, in the instance that if something were to happen to Q and you lose both of those guys. And so to get Akello back, we've got some flexibility. I can't say enough about what a great job Josh Wallace has done. And then we got Darian Kendrick coming back, where we claimed him off of waivers, and he's a guy that has familiarity and flexibility both inside and outside. And this is that time of year, but we do feel fortunate that guys that you're asking to step up are people that understand what's going on, have real game experience, and that means a lot this time of year.
Coach, Monday, I couldn't help but when I woke up noticing how the entire media football world had granted you guys the greatest team in the history of football. And, Chuck Noll's got nothing on you now. I'm wondering if you noticed it too, and if you made a message to your squad about where this is in the season and how dangerous that can be.
Yeah, and I think I did see some of those different things. I talk to you guys, but I stay pretty disciplined relative to seeing those things. But you can't help when you look at NFL Network or you look at just some of the major websites, just being a fan of the game. You acknowledge it, and what you say is the guys have earned the right to get that. That's not why we do it, and that's not anything that moves us forward, but it's a sign of respect for what they've done through 11 games. And we got 6 more guaranteed, and the only thing I'm worried about is Wednesday. What I do feel good about is the maturity and the humility of this group. They understand that the confidence that you're seeing them play with on Sundays or whenever our games are is earned throughout the work week. The way that they celebrate each other, the way that they trust one another, but the way that they really challenge themselves throughout the course of the week. And our guys, I think, have earned the right to play with some, confidence the last handful of weeks, and you got to earn it again. Humility is only a day away. Our guys understand that, but no, we acknowledge, we celebrate, really cool stuff that they're doing. We talk about enjoyment of other successes all the time. We're not worried about the outside-in narrative, but you can't help but be aware of it. And now I say, hey, why is that coming? Because there's been a discipline, there's been a humility, and there's been a commitment to a process. Let's continue to raise our standards and ascend week in and week out, and really day in and day out is what we've talked about.
Do you expect Cam to be able to play on Sunday?
I do. Yeah. He's played really well. I've been so proud of him and just the ascension and the different playmaking, his versatility. I mean, you see, he's playing at a pretty different speed, a lot of confidence. Coach Beak and Aubrey do such a great job, but I do expect Cam to be ready.
Sean Harrison, you just hit the first 2 field goal attempts in his NFL career. It seems like he's been pretty calm and confident since he walked in the building. Has his emotional regulation stood out to you at all?
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. Emotional regulation, like the opposite of me, huh? He's been steady, and I think when you look at his career at Missouri and even some of the circumstances in the UFL, he's been a cool customer, just comes in and goes to work, and I think he feels very grateful. You can see there's probably a healthy perspective that allows him to realize this is a blessing, it's never a burden. And I've been really pleased with what he's done. He's made all 13 of the attempts that he's had up to this point. And I think that's a credit to Jake and Ethan and the protection as well. But it was good to be able to get off a couple of those field goal opportunities, because other than that, it's been exclusively extra points. Him being able to hit the one from 40 and then for 52, I think that's great for that overall operation, and I was really happy for him. It's awesome.
Coach, when you look at somebody like a Bryce Young, and see how he's evolved, and what are some of the challenges that he presents?
Athleticism, escapability. I mean, you look at, he's always been a dynamic athlete, and he can, for a guy that he can move and manipulate the pocket, he can change his arm slot, and then he's able to keep his eyes downfield off schedule. that Atlanta game, just watch that and you see how dynamic he is. And I think it's pretty cool, some of the different things that he's been through. A lot more good than some challenging moments, but I think that says a lot about him. We got respect for him and got to do a good job of being able to keep him contained. And they've got some real weapons, and they do a good job of accentuating those guys' skill sets. I thought it was good. McCollum's one of the guys that does a really good job of bending the edge. He did a nice job, but the timing ended up beating it on the one 52-yarder that he had. So overall, I've been really pleased with that operation as a whole. And I think a lot of the work that the guys have put in behind the scenes, what's refreshing is that you're starting to see that translate for successful outcomes. And I think the confidence is compounding and want to continue to build on that.
Snag back with Nick Van
Yep.
to the active roster. A little downtick at 13% this last week. Is that matchup dependent, or is it just tough to
Availability, so now the thing is that was part of the thought process is you give yourself a chance to be able to activate, all your different personnels, whether it be 11, 12, 13, who knows, maybe 14 at some point. Huh? I wouldn't say never. But he was a guy that, both Les and John McVay liked. I had some familiarity with him, and you're just kind of looking around the league. Feel good about some of the guys we have on the practice squad, but with Higbee being out for some time right now, you do want to make sure that if you decide to go with a couple guys up, that you're not one injury away from losing, a portion of your game plan if that's the way that you lean and in the direction that you want to go.
Sean, on the game Sunday night, Devante talked about that quick pass to the corner to him, that it was actually something that happened in practice where he wasn't the number one option, but he saw it, that Matthew saw it on the board, that, it could be an option. Is that normal to find something?
You talking about it on his 24-yard touchdown?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. That is normal. I think what's cool is a lot of the dialogue that goes on in our absence as coaches. I think it sometimes be the most beneficial because they're the ones that are bringing it to life. And like I've told you before, and really Devante's this too, but Matthew is an extension of the coaching staff. And on that particular concept, he had a couple different options, and there was a three-man surface to the other side that was kind of coming into his vision. He had a good feel for the post player, was kind of middled up right there, and he was able to periff Devante's release and get the ball up and down. But you don't take for granted how rare it is the things Matthew can see, and then the ability to be able to win quickly, stay stacked, and then be able to finish that was cool. But those guys are always talking about how can we improve things, and that's what's great about having these video boards out here. You don't wait till practice. I think the best corrections are made in real time, and then when you're able to see it, and then in between series when the offense is going and then the defense is up, now those guys are able to kind of be able to collaborate, communicate, and get connected on, right, what's the best way to be able to move forward rather than having to wait until the next day or when you get back in the film room, being able to do that in the real time, and that's what the real ones do, and that's what those two guys did in that instance.
Devante has been one of the best in terms of his release off the line of scrimmage for a long time now. As a play caller, how do you accentuate or bring to life that skill set?
Yeah, you don't have to do much. He makes it right. I mean, you look at the way that he was able to win versus, hard outside in leverage with inside presence based on the one that he had caught against Seattle, and he still found a way, and Matthew did a great job of getting it up and down. That's been, Devante is, since I've been coaching, there's nobody that's been better about being able to get parallel and work edges on people. I mean, that's a special trait, and if you guys ask him about it and the level and the depth of knowledge and the thought process that goes into understanding is, to have the physical but also the above the neck understanding of, there's an art to it when you hear him articulate it. When we first, when he came out here to sign, we went out to dinner, and he was standing up in the restaurant showing some of his releases, and this guy loves it, and it's, I love learning some of the different things, and I've been a fan of watching it, and it's pretty cool to see it come to life in a Rams uniform. We were at Bird Streets, and we didn't get too many looks. We kind of had, I think people were like, that's some cool shit. All right.
Sean, when you're calling plays, are you ever conscious of matchups with Devante's experience? If he's matched up against a rookie or a younger player,
absolutely.
You're conscious of that in real time?
Oh yeah, I mean, those are things. I mean, I think part of our job is to be aware of. It always starts with us, but then there's an element of the opposing team's personnel and their scheme, and trying to ultimately put our players in favorable outcomes with our decisions. The players bring it to life, but that's absolutely something that we're in tune with. What
last
makes you
one.
ask that, Gary?
Just ask.
Just wondering. Good.
Nate Landman's extension, when a guy comes in, does a great job as a team leader, and he gets rewarded, how does that permeate within your locker room?
Yeah, I think what's the coolest thing about it, Gerard, is that when that came out, he's so humble, he wouldn't say anything, but then, you guys, as soon as things happen, you guys are, sometimes before me on some of this stuff, but the reaction from his teammates is so authentic, and that's part of what I talk about, the enjoyment of other successes or good things happening, because he's earned that respect, and he checks all the boxes of the things that we want to be about, with the character, with the competitiveness, the mental and physical toughness, his ability to uplift and elevate others, his ability to put his arm around guys. And like I've told you guys before about him, he's just got a great feel, great emotional intelligence and understanding how to be able to lead, pick and choose his spots with the right timing and the right tone. And he's really endeared himself to this locker room in a very short amount of time by just naturally, as I've come to get to know him, just being himself. And it was really cool to be able to see he and his wife Brina be able to go over there and sign the contract. And when you feel the gratitude, you want to do right by people. And his teammates were excited, but I think you want to make sure you're very cognizant of recognizing and rewarding the people. No different than how excited people were for Kyron. When we ended up signing him before the season, guys get excited because those are the types of players that they want to play with, and good things happen when you lean on those kinds of people. Okay, thanks, guys.